What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a very, very special episode of The Captain's Run. It is Origin. We are here. It is game day. Feel the nerves. Feel the tension. Get excited. It is the duel in Australian sport tonight. Queensland versus New South Wales. New South Wales return to Suncorp. Will they steal glory again up at Suncorp? Have they beaten the hoodoo? Is the myth gone? Or Queensland right or wrong of 2024? Welcome to all our listeners, however you're tuning in. SEN 1170 in Sydney, SENQ 693 in Brisbane, SEN 620 on the Gold Coast, listening live on the SEN app, and download the SEN app at the App Store or Google Play Store. Listen belatedly on any podcast app that you want to listen on. So make sure that just go to Captain's Run, give us a follow, give us a text 0457 736 736. Predict the score. I tell you what we'll do. Send in a text 0457 736 736. Predict the score, and then Maestro, can we, if someone gets it correct, send them, say, a $100 gift voucher or something in an email?
We'll find something.
We'll find
something. It might be a $100 gift voucher, but we'll find something around the office.
I'm going to offer it. I'm on offer it from Bloke.
Okay,
I'll give them either a $100 Bloke gift voucher or a $100 Grumpy Coffee gift voucher.
Done.
Text in 0457 736 736, predicting your scores tonight. The closest or the most, if there are multiple ones correct, we would just pick one of them at random. So that is 0457 736 736. Text in your score prediction for game one to win a $100 Bloke gift card or a $100 Grumpy gift card, one of your choice. Huge show planned, guys. It's finally here, game one Origin. Crichton, will he play? We've got the latest from inside the Blues camp. Galvin's set to join the Bulldogs, won't play for the Tigers in any grade this weekend. How does he fit in at Belmore? And Justin Horo will join me in the second hour to talk State of Origin teams and Daly Cherry Evans' future. And our preview of round 13 in the NRL, which players will back up from State of Origin. As I said, guys, text in for your chance to win a $100 Bloke gift voucher or Grumpy gift voucher, one of your choice. The score for tonight, give your prediction, and then we'll contact you once the score is done and give that gift card to you. Alrighty, it's been a huge day. I tell you what, huge omen. I'll give you one of the great omens all time. So, I woke up this morning. I got out of my bed. I had 6 ice baths. I wrote 3 novels in my diary, and they were all award-winning. I stared in the mirror, made out with myself. I sniffed my own farts, and then I went to get changed. I put on a jumper that I hadn't worn for over a year. I put my hand into the pocket. The jumper happens to be a maroon jumper, purely maroon, the great Queensland colours. I put my hand in my jumper. I pull out a wallet that's been lost for a whole year. A whole year that wallet's been lost. The pain, the suffering that's caused me not to have that wallet. Am I too lazy to get cards replaced? Yes, I am. Am I too lazy to do anything about it? Yes, I was. But then the great Queensland gods, they said, no, it's in your pocket, baby. A year later, I went overseas without any cards, without any ID. It was all just on my phone. Was the missus happy with that? No, she wasn't. And then the Queensland gods said, here it is, in the pocket of the maroon jumper, a Bloke maroon jumper. If that isn't an omen, I don't know what is. Oh, Maestro, how you going, mate?
Not too bad. I'm excited, Kempy. I can't live up to you because the Blues are favourites as always, and I'm expecting it's going to be a lot closer than most people are predicting. And you've been running the underdogs line. That's fine. But it is Suncorp. It is Queensland up there. It's going to be packed. It's going to be very, very exciting.
It is going to be exciting. You know what else excited me? Around Origin time, look, the Blues may or may not win tonight, but Gus Gould wins again. And I tell you why. Because I have a conspiracy to end all conspiracies. Let me put my tinfoil hat on. You've all been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. I have a conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen. So earlier in this week, great TV, Chamis v. Gould, arguing. Watch your tone, young man. It was one of the great pieces of TV theatre we've seen in a very long time. I think, me personally, Gus Gould has bamboozled you. He's hoodwinked you. He's taken you for a ride. Once again, the Gould father always wins. You know why? Because guess what the headlines are now? Has nothing to do with an Origin level 9 being moved on from the club. It has nothing to do with Toby Sexton him saying he doesn't want to be at the club allegedly, reportedly, a 7 that got them to the top of the table, a 9 that got to the top of the table. The headlines are no longer, where will Galvin play? Guess what the headlines are? Should Gus Gould be allowed to talk about the game as it is? I got news for you. That ship sailed 40 years ago, guys. He's been talking about this stuff for 40 years. Gus Gould wins again. My conspiracy theory is this. He did a great, similar to what Wayne Bennett does. When there's a lot of pressure around the club, he's come out swinging. He is. I mean, Gus Gould's been in the media for 30 or 40 years. And then all of a sudden, he can't handle a few questions from Chamis. He could have easily just said, oh, yeah. How many times have you seen Gallen hold Gould to the fire, and Gould just does this little smirk and just goes, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I lied, or yeah, I didn't say this, or I didn't misdirected this. Me personally, I think that was basically he went into that whole snippet going, I'm going to create headlines about myself, take pressure off my club, and I'm going to make it all about Gus Gould and not the Bulldogs, and the fact that 2 players of their spine, when they're currently sitting on top of the table, are being moved on, and also not about the fact that Galvin is now arriving at the club. I just think that it's too perfect. It all fits together too perfectly. Gus Gould, a master of the media. He kept saying, you guys in the media, Gus, hey, brother, you're in the media too. It was a masterclass of misdirection. It is a masterclass of taking the headlines away from the Bulldogs and putting them on Gus Gould. Maestro, am I going crazy? Is the tinfoil getting, because I'm wearing a tinfoil hat right now, is it getting to my brain cells?
I knew the Origin fever had affected you when you walked in today, Kepi. You were full of energy, bounced in with this theory for me. And frankly, I can't believe what you're saying. Right? I think Chammy came out of that with his reputation in hand, going at Gus, sticking it to him, calling him out on some of the 2 versions of events that he's been putting forward. Yes, the goalposts have moved, but the Bulldogs were aware that was going to happen. They've been planning this for a very, very long time. Maybe you're right about him going in and causing a stink to take some of the attention away from the fact that Toby Sexton and Reid Marnie are going to be moving elsewhere. But I don't know if he had that in his locker. I think Chammy got under his skin a little bit.
No, I disagree.
Has amplified what was coming from his mouth.
I think that Gus Gould has sparred with so many people over so many years. And Chamis, I got a lot of respect for what he does, and I really love the fact that he did, hold him to the fire. But I just can't see how all of a sudden Gus Gould can't handle the heat, and he starts saying essentially non sequiturs of mind your tone, young man. Like that, Gus Gould's borderline genius.
Yeah.
Like, he knows that means nothing to say something like that. Stick on the argument. Like, he could have easily just gone the smirk, the quiet. What Wayne Bennett does all the time too. He does the little smirk, he goes quiet, and then gives one-word answers, and that's the end of the conversation. Like, you can pick at someone as much as you want. If they go, oh, did I? Okay, well, we'll see. Yeah, okay, yeah, fair. If you just give them that, then there's nothing else they can. I personally think he took that opportunity to make the headlines about Gus Gould, and that's all we're talking about at the moment.
So what does it mean now for them? Because Galvin's coming into that side. Is he going to fit? Toby Sexton looks like he's on the way out. Gold Coast sounding like the most likely destination. Foz has given him a massive rap in the media today. Is it all going to fit together nicely? Are they closer to winning a premiership with Lachlan Galvin coming into that club?
Look, I'm not sure, to be honest. It's going to be hard to say. Where does he fit? Whatever. What I do know is that the pressure, yes, it will be there once he arrives, but the pressure that was mounting before that argument between Chamis and Gould was huge. All anyone could talk about was where the hell does Galvin fit, and also not anyone, but a lot of Bulldogs fans were sitting there saying how unfair it is that Sexton and Marnie are getting moved on. Now, Marnie and Galvin, I don't think are connected.
No.
I think the Bulldogs are just looking at it going, listen, let's just get this all out of the way now when everything's on us. So I think that the pressure has reduced slightly. Now, obviously, that will re-emerge once they arrive at the club. But I think that in regards to Galvin arriving, look, I'm a big believer in Ciraldo. So I don't know whether, I can't say for sure whether it will or won't work, but I just know that Ciraldo, or I feel, my opinion is that Ciraldo is a really, really good coach. And you just have to look at that current squad on paper. Look what okay, here's a perfect example. Josh Curran. If you said to someone, Curran's getting bought from the Warriors to be their front rower, and each game he's going to be one of their best players, you would have been laughed out of the room. You would have said, at most, Curran's a 13 on the edge. He's a really good 13, and everyone's seen his potential for a very long time. Obviously, he used to be at the Roosters, goes to the Warriors. But to go to the next level that he did, people would have laughed you out of the room. If you had said, Ciraldo will be able to get Max King into an Origin side, laughed out of the room. I think Ciraldo has done much more with much less than Galvin arriving to the club, in my opinion.
The system is the star there, isn't it?
I've always said that.
Like Penrith.
I've always said that.
Yeah.
In this current era of rugby league, if you want sustained success, the system needs to be the star instead of the star be the star.
Yeah.
You know, the system needs to be the star rather than the stars all be about them. So, look, I just think that at the moment, I don't know how it works, but I've got enough confidence in Ciraldo to make it work because I feel like he's done, again, I know they're sitting on top of the table, but when you look at this side on paper, it's still like, you know,
it hasn't improved markedly from last year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And yet look how much they've improved because of his coaching. On like some of these players on the open market, like their forward pack on the open market, I don't think anyone's going near 800K.
No.
I'm talking about the middle. I'm not talking about Villiam Kikau. In the middle there, a lot of these players, 600-700K. Meanwhile, you've got other clubs with players that are like on $1 million in the middle. And that's why I've got faith in Ciraldo to make it work. Is it fair on Sexton? Is it fair on Marnie? You know, unfortunately in rugby league, it's not about fairness. It's about winning premierships. And yes, it's a hard balance because on one hand, you've got to ask these guys to bleed for each other, bleed for your brothers. But on the other hand, when it suits you, you say, oh, it's all business. That's the unique thing about rugby league. It is a business. It is about winning. But at the same time, you need these guys to go above and beyond than what they would for a business. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's the biggest test of Ciraldo's culture that he has there at the moment because it's one thing being us against the world when it is us against the world. But as soon as someone in that us gets tapped on the shoulder, it almost feels like, well, is it us against the world or is it us just trying to win a premiership and it's not really matter. The us doesn't really matter who it is. It's just whoever you feel is going to fit your idea of winning a premiership. Listen, Wayne Bennett always gets this, these raps for being a man manager, and he absolutely is. He absolutely is. But like even me, so I remember around contract time, he made me sign for minimum, less, not made me, but basically said, you'll start the season on the wing if you sign for minimum. So I was like, okay, sweet. I'll sign for $50,000 a year, and because all I wanted to do was play for the Broncos.
Yep.
Then next year comes around, and I don't start on the wing. But this is how good. So that's ruthless from Wayne Bennett. He is. So I walk into the office and I say to him, mate, you promised me that I would start in the wing, and I'm not. He just said, oh, sorry if no, he said, did I say that? Okay, if I did, then I'm sorry. Even after that, I went on to have my best year. So even after something that would usually blow up a relationship between player and coach, he was so good at managing it that I went on to have my best year. And look, maybe he did it to motivate me. I don't know. Maybe it was all part of the plan. And that's the position Ciraldo finds himself in. He's made ruthless calls. How does he still get this team to be the best version of themselves? That's going to be his big, challenge at the moment. We've got some texts here. Coming into Origin, we're talking about Galvin and the Bulldogs. Let's get to Origin chat. Okay. And the Tigers don't need to play Okay, sorry. Hi, Kempy. Sexton was always a gap player for Mitch Woods. And the way everyone is going on about it, Galvin to the Dogs, get a player that the Dogs wanted. If he could get an early release before they signed, Leo Thompson, Pahulu has just signed with Melbourne Storm without any carry-on because it's not the Bulldogs and it's Gus. I'm hearing that Galvin won't be the only Tiger to sign with the Dogs, with rumours De Silva could be heading to the Dogs if Marnie leaves and Appy extends at the Tigers. Yeah, potentially. It is a big story. Galvin's one of the best talents in the competition when it comes to young players coming through. Good afternoon. Beacon Maestro. Gus has always been calculated, but he has never been impartial. Maroons 22, Blues 18. It's a great line. Gus has always been calculated, but he's never been impartial. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. So I got my tinfoil hat on. Obviously, I say all of this with a bit of, tongue-in-cheek, but I do think there is a possibility. I really, really do, that he's done Wayne Bennett and Gus Gould do this all the time. There's a big game coming up, and all of a sudden, they've been quiet all year, and they just say something outrageous, and all of a sudden the headline's about them. I think there is a real chance that Gus Gould went in there to take the heat off his club and really, because when have we ever seen Gus like that?
So what you're saying in this conspiracy theory is that it wasn't genuine, the reaction he had to Chamis, or is there a little bit of that feeding into it?
I'm saying that he knew that if he lost it,
yeah,
that this whole thing would blow up and be a huge headline because it would be all about Gus Gould losing it and Chamis holding him to the fire.
No, that's fair.
Just like when Wayne Bennett before big games, how often does he come out and he says something about the opposing coach or something like that? And all of a sudden we're talking about it. We'll never forget Wayne Bennett, Ivan Cleary.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like he does it all the time. So that's my theory. My conspiracy theory is this, just to wrap it all up in a little bow. My conspiracy theory is the pressure was mounting on the Bulldogs. Why this decision? Where will he fit? 2 key players getting moved on in the middle of the season while you were sitting on top of the table. Huge pressure. Now, the next day we wake up, no headline is about that. It is only about Gus Gould, and that is the talking point for the entire week. That's my conspiracy theory. I don't know whether it's true. It's a bit of fun. I think there's a chance it's true. We're going to head to a break. We've got plenty more to talk about. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Got 1,000 texts in here, guys. We've got the text lines absolutely lighting up. Campy, you have entered the fantasy realm. The Bulldogs are on top of the comp. They are under less pressure than any team in the NRL. I would disagree, mate. I would disagree. It doesn't necessarily mean they're under pressure as a team to win games next week, but they are under pressure to make this work, because if this doesn't work, let's say they start losing games, holy moly. I mean, that's when the headlines will be like, just imagine right now they go from first to like 6 or something when Galvin arrives. That is huge pressure to make this work. Just to finish the text, Gus was angry, disingenuous, and abusive. Wow, Eddie, okay. Abusive. I don't know about abusive. I think that's a bit much. But angry, disingenuous, okay. Fair enough, mate. There's definitely a possibility, guys, as I said earlier, it's all a bit of fun. I wouldn't bet me house on that he's done this, but I do think there is a chance, absolutely, that he's set this up like the great Wayne Bennett does it quite a lot. I got another text here. Sorry, but I have to disagree. Chamis did not hold his own. He made a lot of accusations towards Gus with no evidence, and just speculated like every other journalist, in which Gus answered every accusation quite comfortably. I feel that Chamis bordered on defamation of character due to lack of evidence. Regards, the G-Dog. I don't know about... Look, the last bit's a bit hectic. I think it's more just blokes having a bit of yarn with each other. I don't think anyone... I don't think Gus Gould is losing business opportunities because of what Chamis has said to him. In regards to Chamis, look, did Chamis do everything perfectly? I think if there's one critique on Chamis, he should have had the quotes there in front of him to just be like, boom, boom, boom. But outside of that, me personally, obviously I respect your opinion, mate, but I actually think Chamis did come out quite looking quite good. I think that there's a lot of times where people are watching, and Gus Gould is such a big figurehead. People don't want to put pressure on him because he holds so much power in the game. And it's, and that's not just Gus Gould. There are a lot of people in rugby league that people are a little bit scared to say certain things about, because they do hold a lot of power in the game. It's like anything. And if you think any industry is like rugby league is different to any other industry that's like that, it's just not the truth. So I think that a lot of people looked at that and really appreciated Chamis asking the tough questions that I think a lot of people on the couches at home or on their phone were asking, which was, you really did allude quite strongly. Even you could argue actually said that you weren't interested. Now, I think if you go back and you look at the actual quote, did he definitively say, we will never go after Galvin? No, I don't think he did.
The line was, he's not in our plans.
Yeah. So, again, that's where I lean more on that. Gus Gould's such a shrewd operator. That's why he said he's not now. Like, all of this language, I call it lawyer language, where it's that, to my understanding, allegedly, to my recollection. These are all things, all words put in sentences to keep it very vague and open, that you can come back later and say, well, it was to my understanding at the time, but clearly more information has came out since it. Or to my recollection, I must have forgotten that. You've seen those I think politicians get grilled by like senators and that. It's all that lawyer speak. Okay, got some more text here. Kempy, Galvin is going to struggle to fit in. Outside of 80 minutes on game day, I feel the only reason he went there was they offered him the 7 and he wants to have control of the team, the dirty eel. I don't know. I think you're underestimating how much of a strong leadership position Ciraldo has. Like, I think you're underestimating if Galvin comes in and doesn't fit the system, Gus and Ciraldo, they'll either force it or he'll just get moved on. And the thing with a guy like Galvin, it's almost like a win-win situation for clubs, because if you get into your club for $700K and it doesn't work out, there are so many other clubs who go, we will take that entire contract. Whereas some of these other players that you buy on potential, and if you buy, you could argue you are buying Galvin to a degree on potential, but I do think $700K is around his value on the market right now as a young 6. I think that some players get bought and they are so much on potential. Like the market has inflated their price so much that when it doesn't work out, no one wants to pick up the bill. Whereas I think a guy like Galvin in a key position, I think that there's a lot of people that would go, yeah, absolutely, we'll pick up the bill. Absolutely, we will. And, is the game... I'm not fully in the camp. There's been a lot of people talking about the game has just changed. Like conservative sevens, they are just like not necessarily needed anymore. And it's like, well, hang on a sec. The best 7 in the game right now is a conservative 7 in Nathan Cleary. Everyone looks to the Melbourne Storm. Mate, the Melbourne Storm are an outlier. Like we're talking about, like even the Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers. Granted, the Penrith Panthers won 4 premierships in a row, so they did something the Storm never did. But like the Panthers haven't had 20 years sustained top 4 success like the Melbourne Storm. Like I wouldn't look at the Storm and say they are the norm. They are the exception. I do think there is still space for the conservative 9, for the typical number 7 that steers you around the park. However, Serraldo, for me, I have a lot of faith in his coaching ability. I personally think there's a chance that we are witnessing the birth of one of the next best coaches. And so I think that he'll like with the roster that he's got to be able to be on top of the table. Imagine what he'd be able to do with Galvin, who, whether you're a hater of Galvin or a lover of Galvin, there's no denying the kid has talent. Now, degrees of talent? Is he, the next big thing and he's going to be an immortal? There's some people that go that far. I mean, even Gus Gould was talking about he's going to be the highest paid player ever and he's the best player we've ever seen and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that anyone, no matter where you land on Galvin, you can't deny this guy is a really, really good player. Here's another text here. Have people not known Gus's history? When Gus said Galvin wasn't on the radar, I laughed. I knew that he would be. I love Gus, and Gus is the king of spin. It would not surprise me. That the dumping of Sexton and Mahoney is clearing the decks for a premiership dive at DCE. Move Connor Tracy on, move Burton to 1, and hey presto, you have an amazing backline. 1-7 with DCE. I wouldn't put it past Gus. He's a king. And that's the thing that I'm leaning a little bit into, like in regards to the conspiracy theory or whatever. Mate, this guy has been around for so long. He has seen it all. You think that he hasn't been under pressure about signing and moving players? Like, I mean, Anthony Griffin, like, literally signed an extension, got let go from the club. He was grilled on TV. Like, he's been grilled on TV, Gus Gould, so many times and not lost his mind, lost it like that. That's where I go, I'm with you, mate. I think he's a shrewd mover. There's always about 3 levels deep of what Gus Gould is what direction he's trying to head in. Don't forget, Leo Thompson's coming in next year to the Bulldogs for a premiership. Yeah, absolutely. Kempy, mate, Lomax for the all-time Goosies. Pass back into Moses, score into the sticks. Momax, baby. No, it's not Momax, baby. It's Climax, baby. Zach Climax. Alrighty, we're going to head to a break. After break, that's right, guys. We've got some Origin chat to get to. I know you've been waiting for it. Let's get to it after the break. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. The text lines are absolutely lighting up. You're kidding, Kempy. When Chamis accused Gus of misleading people, he lost it. His integrity was challenged. By the way, Gus has previously said about Galvin, I got a shock when I met him. He's like 6'2", 6'3". Then last night, he said, I haven't met Lockie Galvin. Look, I will say, and not run cover for Gus, but he could be saying, I haven't met Galvin in regards to this contract negotiation. Not, I've never met him in my history. But, mate, fair enough. Maybe you are correct. I guess we'll never know. When a guy's got as storied history as Gus, there are so many different ways this could go. But you could be absolutely right. And Chamis could have absolutely schooled him. The good old Chamis. I've got to think of a nickname for Chamis. I don't know why. He's just the chairman. Chammy, not doing it for you? Yeah, I don't know. I'll have a think about it. The chamois, like the chamois they used to have. They used to clean everything. Mopping up. He's mopping up the integrity of the game with his journalism. Anyway, okay, let's get into it. Don't forget, guys, tonight, as soon as the game finishes, we will be going live on Bloke's YouTube and reviewing the game immediately. I know passions are high, and I know people want to just get straight into the review, so we're going to be straight after the game tonight reviewing it. And also, June the 10th at 6 p.m., Bloke, maroon and blue jumpers and hats are dropping. Very limited edition. We've never done this design before. Okay, let's get into it. Haas confirmed to play. Crichton has missed the New South Wales captain's run, and there is a lot of questions about whether he will be fit. He will be fit to play tonight. Now, first of all, I'll say this. I think if I'm a New South Wales fan, out of those 2 players, the one player I want to play is Haas. is definitely Haas. I think that forward pack without Haas, it's still good, but I get concerned their inability to handle a guy like Tino if Haas isn't on the field. Now, Critter, this is a really mysterious one because I've still got my conspiracy hat on, so I'm in full conspiracy mode here. But are New South Wales pulling a Queensland on Queensland? Because there's been no silly buggers from Queensland this lead up, whereas there's been a lot of silly buggers coming out of New South Wales. And I wonder, for example, a Cork. Come on. Does anyone believe that? You reckon a Cork is keeping Critter out of Origin? Come on, bro. Look, Corks can be bad, but this is Origin we're talking about. I personally think it's either they just said Cork and they're playing silly buggers with Queensland, so I got my conspiracy hat on, or it's actually his groin, and they've said Cork because they know groin sounds a lot worse than Cork. Now, to go even deeper on the conspiracy, though, then I look at it and go, well, if you were playing silly buggers, you wouldn't say Cork. You would say he has a strained groin because that makes it sound more real. So listen, I've twisted myself in a pretzel. I don't know what's real and what's not anymore. That's what happens when you wear a tinfoil hat. So he's 50-50. The good thing is, and look, I do think that you are missing, in regards to actual playing on the field, like what they would do on the field, Campbell and Critter, both at their best, can do relatively similar things. Yes, you could argue Critter has had these big moments that, yeah, okay, for sure, if you want a big moment, maybe you might be missing that from Critter. But I think it's his leadership that you will really miss, especially out on the edges, if Critter isn't in the game. I will say what Campbell Graham brings that is a little bit better than Critter at times is physicality. I think that Campbell Graham's physicality and his tough runs out of his own end. So they both bring certain things. I would still say right now Critter is a better centre form-wise right now and also resume-wise as well. So you are losing something if Critter isn't there. You definitely are, but I don't think you're losing as much if you had Haas not in there. And so it's going to be really interesting if he does run out, have Queensland been finally hoodwinked by the New South Wales Blues as Queensland always do. What do you reckon, Maestro?
I think there's something to this, Kempy, because of the fact the way it came out. I don't think anything would have been released if we hadn't had that footage of him walking off, and nobody knows where that's come from either. The New South Wales Blues were, investigating where it had come from, using their drone footage. So it's added a nice little layer because there hasn't been much build-up, has there, to this series? We've been talking about it and the teams were named, but after that, everyone's gone into camp and been relatively quiet. So that could be another little stake to put in your conspiracy theory there is where has that vision come from? Was it meant to be released? Was it not? Would New South Wales have even commented on this if that footage hadn't been published?
Yeah. A Cork? I just can't see him missing a game because of Cork.
Well, so if you go down the New South Wales line, that all makes sense. We wouldn't have said anything, but we've had this and people are reporting on it, so we've got to come out and clear the air. They're saying he's going to be okay to start tonight. I tend to believe them, and I think that's going to be a big advantage for New South Wales, particularly the fact I think he's defending on Coates' wing.
Yep.
Is that right? So there's been a little bit of chat about what's going to happen there in the air with To'o. That's been a conversation ever since Brian To'o has come in.
And it never comes to fruition.
Yep.
It never this talk about To'o, it was Coates over To'o. Mate, we have been talking about this since To'o debuted. Still not an issue. And maybe that's because he's always had good centres or whatever, or maybe just because he's one of the best wingers of all time, in my opinion, Brian To'o. So, look, I think you might be right there in regards to. I just think that I've heard, outside of the noise in the media, that he, at least yesterday, he was 50-50.
Yeah.
At least yesterday he was 50-50. So I don't think it is surprising that they're already saying, yep. So they've confirmed that he's definitely in.
That was the release last night.
They've said he's in.
He's in.
Starting.
He's playing.
He's confirmed. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll see. Because didn't Campbell Graham get brought into the camp?
Well, Campbell was already in camp. They were talking about bringing Matty Burton in, but Laurie said they got in contact with him and didn't end up bringing him in. So
interesting.
Campbell will be wearing the 18 jersey tonight.
Okay. They got in contact with him. Maybe the Bulldogs were like, not again. Listen, you've had him playing 18th man for friggin' 4 years, and I'm sick of it. We need him back here. Look, if I had to guess, I personally think he plays, but we actually have Laurie Daly on Crichton's availability right here.
Steve will just see how he is tomorrow, and then we make a call. But it's only a cork, so it's nothing other than that. But again, we're just going to make sure that he's okay and get the swelling down. Yes, yeah. Campbell Graham will come straight into the starting team, so Campbell's aware of if anything happens overnight, that he'll be straight in. And he's been here all camp. So, and the fact that he's a right centre, it doesn't change anything.
So is that the latest? That
was Laurie yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday. Is there anything today?
There's been a little bit of, so there was a release put out by the Blues last night that Stephen Cron will be playing tonight.
Okay, sweet. So he's locked in. Okay, the Courier Mail has sparked some discussion this week. Their back page calling the Maroons to target Spencer Lenu. Smash this Blues grub. What? I haven't seen this. Oh, jeez. I don't know about that. I don't like that. What do you reckon, Marshall? I don't like that. Like, journos. The thing is, like...
Not even journos, mate. This would be the subbies. These are the sub-editors.
The thing is this, mate. Unless you've been in the arena, you don't get to talk tough. Smash this grub. It's like, what? You haven't earned the right to talk like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a dude sitting behind his desk, and I know everyone they love it. I don't mind if you were smash these, like the team or whatever, but to single a bloke out like Spencer Lenu, I don't like that stuff. I mind the team as a whole, and you keep it vague or whatever, but just to like smash this Blues grub, like what are we talking about? This would be some little dude behind his desk pushing pencils, going, I'm going to get the best headline ever. Smashed it. I don't know. I don't like that. I think it's a bit weak, to be honest.
This is all part of Origin, though, right? This was, when those comments were published on the back page, the Telegraph down in Sydney, the worst Queensland side ever, created this fantastic
that's a little bit different
because it's not targeted at one player.
Yeah, that's different. Like you're saying, smash this Blues grub, and you're alluding to Spencer Lenu, and you can have your opinion on him, but like you're singling a bloke out. That's where I just go, keep it general. Keep it about the team in New South Wales, or use actual quotes that they've either said or haven't said or whatever. I don't necessarily like, because you just haven't earned the right. You haven't earned the right to say something like that. If a player says that, you go, well, mate, you've earned the right. Like you're in the arena, you've got to suffer the consequences of your words. Whereas if the person that wrote this, they're not suffering any consequence. They're just talking smack about a bloke they'll never meet in their life, and they would never say that. So look, I've always got to, like, obviously I'm a massive Queenslander, massive Maroons fan, but I've always got to tell the truth. I would rather them just keep it around the Blues stuff.
The one thing I'd say off the back of this is it, I think, gives legitimacy to New South Wales basically not putting him up for media all week, because there's a good chance that he gets asked about it. Suddenly maybe that's in his head. Instead, he's just been in camp. It's all been about what's happening around him and being part of the system. He hasn't been that singled-out player, which I think is smart management by the Blues.
Yeah, it's absolutely smart management. Because, like, at the end of the day, like, we all want to get riled up and we want to see the headlines and we want to see someone say something silly from the playing group. But really, what would you rather more? Your team be in the best possible mental shape to win the game, or you be entertained by silly quotes that come out during the week? I think everyone would agree, I want my state to win.
100%.
Cool. The game is entertaining enough. So anyway, so grub is a heavy word. This is Coach Laurie Daly. When asked about the piece at New South Wales media press conference on Tuesday, he's a good person, Spence. Everyone will look after him on Wednesday. He'll be okay. He's got a plan. Everyone has his back. Alrighty, we are going to head to a break. Look, Origin is here. Whether you love it or you hate that headline, Origin is here. Me personally, I don't like the targeting of a specific player. However, Origin is here. All is fair in love and war, they say. All is fair in love and war. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Let's get straight into it. The New South Wales camp is prepared and ready for Queensland to pull a late positional shock by shifting the 194 centimetre Coates to the right wing for an area assault on the much smaller To'o. Coates and To'o both play left wing for their clubs. That would mean Coates would be shifted to Queensland's right to confront To'o. Coates can also play both sides, but has been on the left with Melbourne over the past few years. To'o has been targeted previously due to his stature, but unsuccessfully. The Panthers' powerhouse has managed to hold his own under the high ball, usually with the help of former Panther teammate Crichton. I think I don't agree with this decision. If Queensland were even considering it, because guess who's on the other wing? Zach Lomax. So you're basically going, all right, we'll have a crack at To'o, and Lomax will go, I'll have a crack at Holmes. And so Holmes is a little bit taller than To'o, but not by that much. Like, I think because To'o is so stocky, people think he's short. He's not. I think he's still around 180 centimetres, which is definitely not big for a league player. Like, I'm around 180 centimetres. Well, 181 to be exact, but like whatever, close to 6 foot with shoes on. Yeah, I don't think you're on weak in one side because you could argue that Lomax is just, I'd say Coates has more tries in the air, but you could argue Lomax is just as dangerous at his best, because I wonder, like, their vertical leap would probably be similar-ish. And Lomax, although he doesn't catch as many great tries as Coates does, all you need is one. All you need is one. We've got text here. Holmes said on Sports Day that he'll be on the left with Hammer, Toya and Coates on the right. Oh, okay. So Holmes has said that he'll be on the left. Well, there you go. He's already leaked what's happening. See, that doesn't look. That doesn't make sense to me, because if I'm Queensland, I'm keeping Holmes with Toya because I want the most experienced outside back with Toya to constantly be talking to him. Like, I don't want Toya and Coates together while Latrell is ragdolling people and getting in their faces, throwing elbows and doing all the stuff that you want to see in Origin. I would want Holmes right next to him to keep his head level, to say, mate, this is all part of it. He's trying to get under your skin. Just keep turning up, keep turning up. So, look, maybe that's a red herring from Holmes. I'm not sure. Look, I tell you what, this show is just all about the tinfoil hat. All about the tinfoil hat. Okay, got another text here. Arvo Kempy, Mark from Crestmead. I just put my tinfoil hat on to join the conversation. And I think Laurie took the photo of Crichton. Nothing wrong with him. And Laurie is just taking the attention off the rest of the team. Two smiley, laughing faces. Love the show, mate. Hey, I like that. See, we're all getting in on the fun. It's all fun. A little tinfoil, bit of fun, bit of banter, bit of yarn. We all love it. All right, we're going to head to a break. Plenty more Origin chat after the break. All righty, that is the first hour done and dusted. The great Justin Horo has joined me. How you going, brother?
Good, Kempy. Plenty of tinfoil hat conspiracy theories on the way in, mate. I was listening. You're all pumped up.
Mate, it's Origin. It's all about conspiracies, talking footy, who did what, where, who's going to play where. It's the best.
I love it, mate. I love it. And I love it how you had a theory, but then you had the reverse theory just in case your theory was wrong.
Yeah, you got to go deeper, baby. That's the thing with conspiracy theories. You always go 3 levels deep.
Yeah,
you can't always just go 1 level deep.
No, you've got to go the reverse theory.
All righty, Justin Horo is going to join us for the next hour. Make sure to stay tuned. We had a huge first hour. We had conspiracy theories about Gus Gould, conspiracy theories about Origin, Spencer Lenu being targeted by the Queensland media, so much more. In the second hour, we've got a huge hour planned. More Origin chat with Justin Horo. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Justin Horo has joined me. Do not forget, June 10, 6 p.m, Bloke Maroon and Bloke Blue hats and jumpers are dropping. Very limited edition. You can get them at bloke.shop. Do not miss out. That is June 10, 6 p.m, set your alarm, limited edition. We've never done these design before. But all right, let's get into it, shall we? All right, Skip. How are you feeling heading into Origin as we get closer? Who are you feeling has the upper hand? Queensland been very quiet. Billy Slater been very subdued. What are you feeling?
A couple of weeks ago, I was leaning strongly towards New South Wales. The last week, for a couple of the reasons you just mentioned there, I think I'm leaning closer, or at least further back to Queensland. I think New South Wales, on talent, still deserve to be favourites. But I was just thinking about the inclusions of both Tino and Cam Munster in particular. If you look at the last couple of Origins, we always think about the spine members and the fullbacks and all the star players in the key positions. But history says Origins won through the middle. Angus Crichton was the Wally Lewis medal winner last year. The year before it was Reuben Cotter. The year before that it was Paddy Carrigan. So it's going to be one in the middle again. And I think they got dominated through the middle last year without Tino. And I think he's a huge in. And I think the form of Jeremiah Nanai over the past 4 or 5 weeks has really turned what I deem to be a real weakness for the Queensland team and in the back row. It's not a strength. I'm not saying it's a strength, but it's no longer as big of a weakness because I think he's playing great. I think Reuben Cotter will do a job out on the edge as well. And just a little bit more confident about where they are at the moment.
I was speaking about this on Monday, and I think that something that's not being spoken about enough is Origin form. And what I mean by that, yes, are the Blues heading into this with more players probably in form than the Queensland? Do they have much more depth? Yes. However, in Origin, Queensland has far more players that have had better series than New South Wales. At the moment, right now, in the New South Wales side, essentially everyone outside maybe To'o, Haas, have had just one good Origin series. Whereas you look towards Queensland, you've got Munster that's had a career of good Origin series. DCE, probably 3 or 4 good, 2 not so good. Kalen Ponga, he's had multiple good series. Cotter has had, Wally Lewis. Paddy Carrigan has had multiple good series. And I just wonder, is it not being noticed enough that Queensland actually have more Origin form players than the Blues do? Now, that could change. We could see, the Blues backing up with another really good Origin series. But right now, for example, look at the spine. Robson, Moses, Cleary, Edwards. Edwards was good in the last series. He wasn't great, didn't set it all alight, but he was good. Cleary, the knock is he needs to dominate. He's had good individual games, Cleary. Moses, last series was good. Robson, solid. Compared to Ponga, DCE, Munster, Harry Grant. Like, the Origin careers are night and day, what they've done in Origin. And I think that's not being talked about enough. Yeah,
for sure. Those are really good points with the key positions. I heard you talking about the importance of Payne Haas and Stephen Crichton on the way in.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I think normally, at club level, and Payne Haas is probably going to have more an effect on the Broncos than what Stephen Crichton would have. But in terms of big games and what Stephen Crichton has been able to do on big games, now he hasn't necessarily had huge moments in Origin yet, but he's had grand finals. He's had World Cup moments for Samoa, and he's been successful with the New South Wales Origin team last year. I understand Payne would be huge if he was to miss, but I don't think Stephen Crichton's going to play.
Oh, really?
That's my gut feeling.
Okay.
And that's purely from the language of the coaches, the players, and all the chat that I've seen in media leading into it. And I don't think anyone outside of the 4 walls of New South Wales and Queensland are really going to know what the actual teams are going to look like comes 8 o'clock tonight, or 7 o'clock tonight before they put out their team list. But I just got a gut feeling Stephen Crichton's not going to play, and I think he's going to be a huge out because I think this game has got closer than it was. The goalposts have got a lot closer than what they were, say, 2 weeks ago. And he's a big game player, and in big game moments when the game's on the line, I've seen him in a number of occasions come up with a huge play. Not necessarily having an outstanding 80-minute performance, but a little 5-minute window that completely shifts the momentum of games that he's been involved in. And so many of, like, you think about the grand finals, but even the World Cup semi-finals against England. I think he's a huge big game player. And if he's to miss tonight, Campbell Graham, it's handy that they've got Campbell Graham. He'll come straight into his preferred right edge position. But I think Stephen Crichton would be a huge loss.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, every final series he was at Panthers, he had a play that kept him in the game or saved something, whether it was an intercept, a try-saving tackle. You go back to his kick in the grand final. You go back to his drop goal in for Samoa. It's interesting to hear that you think that he isn't going to play because it will be a huge. And also, it's just that, like, I talk about Isaiah Yeo and Cleary quite a lot, that they're like head players. And like what I mean by that, they're very methodical. It's all like logical and get through, stay calm. Whereas I feel like guys like Critter and Luai are very like heart players. It's all instinct. It's all feel. And so like sometimes I feel like if you're going to lose Critter, you might lose that. Like, for example, Jake Trbojevic, he's a heart player. And that's why he was brought in last year as the captain, because it was all spirit, it was all heart. And if Critter isn't playing, you might, and you've obviously you don't have Luai on there as well, you might miss that heart, that spirit, that fire.
Especially because you've got Latrell on the left as well. Like, he doesn't have as many of those moments just because he plays a different role for club footy for South Sydney. But he's capable if he plays full-time centre position. Go back to the grand final in 2019 with the, and moments that he's had for New South Wales at left centre. So if you've got one on each side, that becomes very daunting for the halves and the spine of Queensland, because you're like, I'd love to chance it. Like, we got something that we want to put on either side, but Stephen Crichton's thereabouts or Latrell's thereabouts. And Stephen Crichton might take a pick and take it to the house, where Latrell might completely read the play, pick a player up and just manhandle them in the ground and come up with an error. Like, two different ways of just really unsettling you. So if Stephen Crichton is missing, going back to that, I just think it just lightens the mood for a little bit. And as much as I love Campbell Graham, he has missed a whole heap of footy. And Hamiso is another guy who's had really good moments for Queensland in the early part of his career. So not to say that that's a complete mismatch, but I do like my chances better on the left side with Hammer, with no Stephen Crichton there.
Now, in regards to the Queensland side, I actually think we might see at least maybe 2 or even 3 changes to the starting lineup. Like Collins could start, Fodawaker. We spoke about this on Monday on the podcast, but there's a chance you could go, because I'm just a bit, when I look at that bench and I go, okay, who's going to contain Spencer Lenu when he comes on the field? Who has the body shape to actually contain him? I think the closest body shape-wise is probably Fodawaker.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether you start Collins, you get him through all the tough stuff, all the 20 minutes, because I don't want Fodawaker fatigued. I want him just 20 minutes of power. And I wonder whether he'll get moved back to the bench, Collins will start, and you bring Fodawaker on. Now, I know they're not exactly like for like, Spencer Lenu versus Fodawaker, but physically, he's probably the most likely off the bench to be able to handle the size and power of Spencer Lenu. Thoughts?
Agreed. The first time I seen the lineup, I anticipated either a Collins for Fodawaker move, or if you're thinking a little bit outside the box, moving Cotter up into the front row, or Carrigan, whoever it may be, Cotter to lock, whatever combination you want to be, and Beau Fermor. He could either come in and, if they decided to move Mo to the bench, and then therefore that allows Cotter to go up front. Or I wouldn't even be surprised if Beau Fermor starts over a guy like Jeremiah Nanai as well. You know, because his experience in playing, you know, with Beau Fermor in making his debut, you know, whether Billy goes, let's just get him straight into the game so he's not as nervous sitting on the bench. And so I'm looking at the other side as well with Max King. Like, there's a part of me that's anticipating maybe a change there.
Yeah, okay.
Because I don't see Max King as an impact player. So maybe there's Mitch Barnett can play that role.
Absolutely.
Because he can come off, he can bring that
lead speed.
He
did it last year.
Like, you could have Mitch Barnett come off the bench and then play the entire game after that, like a 60-minute, 55-minute stint as well. So I am anticipating changes. We'll see what happens. Like, you're going to have to check in, obviously, at the lineups just before the game. But coaches always like to play mind games, especially in when there would have been so much work done throughout the week about, all right, we're going to, you know, front load. The first 5 sets are important. This is what we got to do to Tino and Mo. And then all of a sudden you see either Ruben up front or Lindsay Collins as your front row. And it just throws you off a little bit.
Yeah. I think if you were to go Nanai, Fodawaker coming off the bench against young Spencer Lenu, that's a much more like for like.
Yeah.
Because Hudson Young and Nanai, they're both game breakers. And so, like, that's a bit of a like for like. Whereas if I've got, at the moment, it would be Beau Fermor and Collins coming on when Spencer and Young come. They couldn't be more different. They couldn't be more different. So I'm with you. I think that Fermor will start. I've been pretty strong with that since the beginning. I thought that he might start for Cotter. But having thought about him, like, you know, maybe you don't want Nanai on there for 80 minutes. Maybe you want get the gas out of the game, and then you bring Nanai on to blow the game apart.
And you know what's a detriment to Jeremiah in a way? Like, obviously, you look at his arc throughout the year where they struggled in game 1 against Manly. He got dropped, and then he had to force his way back into the team from the bench. So that could actually work against Jeremiah tonight, where Billy has seen that not only he's worked hard to get himself back in this position, but actually he's been able to be effective off the bench as well. So that's something that could go against him.
Yeah, very true.
With a guy like Beau Fermor, who's probably more suited to more minutes, getting into the game early. Also, the pressure of being a debutant and getting out there nice and early as well.
Yep, that's fair. That's very fair. All righty, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we've got plenty more to talk about, including Andrew Johns. His call for the Blues to target Daly Cherry Evans. Well, welcome back to the Captain's Run. The Maroons halfback, Jeremiah Nanai and Rob Toya. They're the 2 teammates defending on the right edge, reportedly. And Joey, he reckons, go after DCE. He was quoted as saying, the Maroons halfback, Nanai and Rob Toya, the 2 teammates defending either side of him on Queensland right edge, can expect an all-out assault coming their way. If New South Wales are able to target DCE and exploit the champion halfback's inconsistent defensive movement, then the Blues are well on their way to victory and defending the Origin Shield. If you remember, as far back as Laurie Daly's first coaching tenure and lone series win during Queensland's dynasty, it was Cherry Evans who checked out late in the game against Trent Hodgkinson, dummied his way over the only try in Game 2, 2014. A decade on, DCE's edge has been successfully exploited the past few series And when you line up against Moses, Crichton, Mitchell, opposing DCE, Nanai, and Origin rookie Toya, it could be a long night for the Maroons. Latrell, game 2 last year, came from the big shift from the right edge scrum line. With Crichton taking the space DCE offered, he managed to tackle him but couldn't lock him up the ball. And it was game over right there and then. Now, if New South Wales can isolate Nanai again, Moses will make a beeline for DCE, trying to put either Crichton one-on-one with the halfback or line up Latrell with time and space opposite Toya. So the great Andrew Johns, I mean, first of all, you're seeing his mind work in real time. You know, if he was on the field, that's exactly what he would be doing, and we know he'd be doing it extremely well. That is something I've been speaking about for a few years now. Like DCE, his defensive movements can be very erratic. Sometimes he jams, sometimes he slides. And so it's one of those games where sometimes you watch DCE and it's like, wow, he's got the best defense in the competition. He's jamming in, shutting everything down. And sometimes when his center is disconnected from him or vice versa, you're like, what has happened there? So it is a good point. Surely Billy Slater has sat down with them all week long and just said, guys, these are our patterns. These are our movements. Do not deviate from it. What do you reckon, Scope?
When the eighth talks,
you
listen, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait 1 second. Pardon me, I'm back.
And mate, it meant that much. He's nearly crying. He's literally nearly crying. Joey's speaking.
And Joey's correct, and Joey knows him just as well as I did, because you remember the time that I was at Manly, Joey was our assistant coach and the halves coach, so he knows DCE's game inside and out.
Yep.
And the one thing I will say is playing with Ches was it was difficult to begin with. It took me a while to get used to him both offensively and defensively, because he's a very instinctual player.
Okay.
He doesn't. He has the ability and the smarts and the awareness to go sometimes out of your shape in both ways.
Yep.
So when he does go up, he sometimes gambles and tries to shut stuff down before it arrives. Now, if you're not on the same page with him, or you don't have a combination with him, it takes a while to get used to. So the runs on the board with guys like Jeremiah, he hasn't played as much. I remember watching Ola Kawatu at Manly take a while to get used to him as well. So when you throw in Robert Toya into the mix now as well, he's really going to have to be on his toes, because Ches doesn't say, despite how long he's been in the game, and I've watched him from afar as well after my time playing with him, he's not really a guy that will talk a whole lot before he makes something instinctual like that. He just goes, and then you've got to react with him. So there is some value in what Joey's talking about. But in saying that, I don't know why Joey's gone out and basically said everything that you'd want to do to target him and put it in the media, because for sure, if I'm, Billy, Ches, reading a few of those things, all right, maybe, New South Wales have seen this as well. And we just mix our looks up a little bit more because of it. Because, that's something, if I was Joey, just maybe you text that to Laurie.
Send him an audio message. Look, I think I'm a big fan if when something isn't working and it's not clicking and we got torn apart a bit on a side, I like to simplify defensive systems. And I wonder whether Billy Slater has said, listen, when we're in own 20, it's just up and in. Let's just do that. Let's not wait for judgment or call. Let's just go up and in. Not even our own 20, maybe our own 15 or 10. Definitely our own 10. We can't slide in our own line. Anything outside of that, potentially it's up and slide. We just need to make our one-on-one tackles then. What are you a big believer in that, or you are more let's just play it by ear and call audibles of what we see? Yeah,
I like to throw different looks at, but that takes experience as well. The best team in the competition over the last 5 years has been Penrith. And if you watch Penrith closely defensively, I don't think they've got a specific scheme. I think they're very game plan specific, and I reckon they do allow their outside men to make decisions based on the shape that they see. Now, because they're lacking that experience, that's where I think they're actually struggling this year. On the edges, they've really struggled with inexperience in Casey McLean and Brian Toto missing time, and Taruva now at the West Tigers. So I don't think necessarily for the Blues team they'll be looking to do anything crazy offensively to get at that edge. I think it's going to be power game. I think it's going to be Angus Crichton bumpers into Ches, generating a quick play the ball to have the shot to the right, or then go again down the short side with Latrell or even dropping Latrell back underneath, going straight in at Ches. Because when you talk about spots, I know people generally associate spot players as trying to score tries or make breaks. It's not necessarily about that.
Yep.
You're trying to generate a quick play the ball for most of the time to set up the shape that you want to get to.
Yep.
So I'm really anticipating both Angus Crichton and Latrell either getting dropped or getting early ball into Ches, bumpers up into him, generate a quick play the ball, really fluster what Robert Toy is doing down the short side. Is he calling for that extra number?
Yep.
Is he starting to panic? Does he start to back off? And then they have some joy around it.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'll be looking for from both. That's what Queensland should be worried about defensively, and I think that's what New South Wales will be doing attack-wise.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I mean, I would just be essentially what we did last year. Camp them down, Queensland camp them in their own end, make them make big plays to get out of their own end, because that's a team you've got. Like, you don't need your front rowers to take many carries out of your own end. Like, obviously you want Payne Haas there, maybe third or fourth tackle. But when you got guys like, whether it's Critter, but let's say it's Campbell Graham. We've got Critter, Campbell Graham, Lomax, Latrell, and To'o. You've got To'o, Lomax, Campbell Graham, and Latrell, and then Edwards coming out of your own end. Like, you could essentially every set have an outside back coming out of your own end. And if you do that, your forwards are not going to be, they're going to have all that energy ready to expend it in defence.
As in all 5 carries could be outside backs?
If you wanted to.
Okay.
That's how much of a boon that they have. Whereas, like, Queensland, like, you don't want KP taking, the third carry every single set getting bashed up. Even a guy like
Hammer,
Toya, you don't want him getting bashed up. Toya bashed up.
Yeah.
What you want them doing is, when we do get even an inkling of a quick play the ball, be ready to go on the front foot, KP at the line, on the advantage line, hitting those great flat balls. So if I'm New South Wales, I agree, mate. I'm just camping Queensland down their end, and basically wanting to fall over the line. Make them so fatigued that we just fall over the line. If I'm Queensland, I want to play like Melbourne Storm. I want to be shifting immediately to an edge, getting on a 3-man, and either staying down a tram line or coming back again like the Melbourne Storm do. Because the Melbourne Storm, they're the best attacking team in the competition, and they have been for quite a few years now. And when you have a look at the way they play with Pappy, with Munster, with Hughes, with Grant, like DCE, he's very ad-lib, very on the ball footy. Munster, very ad-lib. Grant, very on the ball. Ponga, very on the ball. So I think and obviously Billy Slater is from the Melbourne Storm. I think you'll see Queensland play a lot like the Melbourne Storm. Oh, he's about to die. Oh, no, Queensland, he's dead. That's the Queensland spirit killing him.
Oh, what's doing? A little bit choked up because I'm so pumped up for Origin, I think it is. Yeah, I understand where you're going with that, Kempy.
Because they're not going to beat him for a power game. Queensland will not beat New South Wales in a power game, in my opinion.
The only thing I worry about with a bit of side-to-side stuff is Liam Martin and Angus Crichton. Those two as edge-back roles are so aggressive.
Yep.
And if you allow them to be at C defender where they're not retreating all the time, then they can make really aggressive decisions and come up. Now, you can expose them that way as well. Yep. Don't get me wrong. If they miss and they don't...
You're coming up on KP. They
don't get their guy and they expose it, then...
Coming up on Munster.
Then there could be a 4 or 5 on 3 with wide spaces from far out. But I don't mind sort of getting through in the middle, punching through the middle, at least trying to generate some fatigue, and then having Liam Martin and Angus Crichton not allowing them to be so aggressive on the edges. Because when you're a B defender, you can't go shooting in and making strong decisions.
But I think that they'll be so compressed that if you try to go through the middle, them bigger bodies, they're just going to... Because I don't think you'll see many... I think only Payne Haas in the forwards will probably go over 100 metres. I think a lot of the out of their own end will be outside
backs. Okay.
And so you'll see, I reckon, at the end of the game, it'll be like Dylan Edwards, 180 to 200 metres, Lomax, 180 to 200 metres. All the outside backs will be over 150 metres except for Latrell.
Yep.
And maybe Critter, but if Campbell Graham plays, he'll be over 180 metres, I think. And I think the forwards outside of Payne Haas... I think if you actually go back and look at the numbers last year, I think Payne Haas was the only one to run over 150 metres. And so I understand what you're saying in regards to Martin and Crichton on the edges. I will say Cleary sometimes has games where he really struggles defensively. You go back to the grand final with Ezra Mam, picking him apart there. Him and Reece Walsh really gave Cleary a worry. I think I wouldn't go side to side per se, constantly. I'd more be like... hitting a 3 defender, looking up and going, do we have momentum here. Let's keep going.
Yep.
Like exactly what the Storm do, really.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. If Angus and Liam Martin read it, they will be shutting those sets down immediately. And all of a sudden, you've got no momentum. You've got no players around the ball. It's not a quick, like, you just...
And you're going east-west.
Yeah, and you're just going, oh, my God, what's happening? I will say, from a Queensland's perspective, I do agree with you. I want the game, ball in play, for literally as long as possible. Because I do think that the Queensland side is faster and smaller, so therefore fitter with their aerobic fitness than the New South Wales side. But if it's a slow game, I just think that the Blues are too big. Their outside backs are too big. I think they'll just march down the field.
Yeah, and now, like I said, this is the one thing or the one concern I had for Queensland going into this game with the selections of Mitch Moses and Nathan Cleary. It gives them the ability to sort of play that slower game, kick longer, which has normally been a strength of Queensland because they've had multiple kicking options.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't matter how good those multiple kicking options are for Queensland because New South Wales have two really good options on either edge compared to what they've had in years past.
And they're both different boots as well, aren't they? Cleary is right, Moses is left?
No, both right.
Both right.
Both right. But Mitch will most likely play left by the sounds of it, and that's the way he's been lining up. And he can just do that nice little stabby dart 40-metre one down the left edge anyway. So
Cleary can kick with both, though, can't he, at times?
Yeah.
I've seen him do it a few times. But, all right, so they're both left-foot kickers. I will say the one, yes, definitely the Blues have a better kicking game overall. I think it's the first series they've gone into in a long time with actually the best kicking game.
Yep, agreed.
One tiny difference is Harry Grant at number 9. Like, the two wild cards for me that Queensland have in their pocket is Munster and Harry Grant. I just think that they have offered so much of a better... Like Harry Grant at Origin compared to Robson. Robson's, he gets through his work. He's a really good serviceman, but it's a night and day comparison. And even Moses compared to Munster at Origin, like this, they're not even like. Yes, Moses had a good series last series, but Munster, he has dominated Origin.
And I think with Harry, with Dozer not playing in this as well, I don't know if Tommy Dearden's going to have as big a role that Ben Hunt's had in the past, but I reckon it's actually going to suit Harry Grant.
Yeah, give him more time on there.
He's a more he gets better as the game goes on. He loves the attrition. He loves the fatigue.
Yep.
And when he's known in the past by either starting off the bench or knowing that Ben Hunt's going to come up at the 25-minute mark, it doesn't let him get into his natural flow of the game. Whereas I don't think they're probably just going to go, no matter what, Tommy Dearden's coming on at the 25-minute mark to give you a spell, Harry. It could be more of a wait and see for Billy.
All righty, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we've still got plenty more Origin footy to talk about. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Do not forget, June 10th, 6 p.m, Bloke maroon jumpers and hats, Bloke blue jumpers and hats dropping June 10 at 6 p.m. on bloke.shop. Limited edition. We've never done these designs before. All righty, a talking point I would love to speak to you about, Horo, that no one is speaking about, is everyone just goes, all right, Isaiah Yeo at 13. That's just lock him into there. Forgetting that last year when you had success, Isaiah Yeo came off the bench into the front row and Cam Murray was your 13. Are you missing the leg speed of Cam Murray at 13? No one's talking about how you go and look at Cam Murray's Origin record. When he plays, you guys win. When he doesn't play, you don't win because you miss his leg speed. On top of all that, Isaiah Yeo's Origin career at 13 hasn't been as successful as a lot of people would have hoped. Thoughts?
You guys, Kempy, I'm a Queenslander.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
No, I'm a part-timer. I can understand that. And I just seen recently, I think there was a post with Cam Murray actually getting out of the boot and walking for the first time.
So good.
How good was that to see as well?
One of the games
he is made for Origin, Cam Murray. So it's less about, not necessarily talking about what Isaiah Yeo can't do, just how good Cam Murray and effective he has been for New South Wales. So for sure, there's going to be some adjustment. I think Isaiah Yeo now heading into his 4th, 5th series, whether it's been off the bench, whether it's been at the lock position, he's so much more assured of himself. And the thing that I'd be worrying about for the Queensland is going into this series for the Penrith players in particular. So much has been going wrong, or in my opinion, and I said this weeks ago now, that I don't think Panthers are going to play finals footy. I think they can really front load into this series more so than they've ever had to do before in years past. And I think that's actually more dangerous for the Queenslanders. No one's really talking about Dylan Edwards as much this year. In fact, people were saying that, Teddy was a chance. Mitch and Jerome went and got it done without Nathan last year in the half, so there are some concerns around Nathan.
Well, I'll put this to you. Me personally, this is the Penrith system's last chance at Origin. If it doesn't work this series, it's done. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's a huge call. That is a huge call.
Well, I mean,
it's dependent on Isaiah Yeo.
Yeah, because like
it is dependent on Isaiah Yeo, really. If you look at it, because of the reasons you said about Cam, and then also Yoe's age.
Yep.
So that's a factor as well, because Nate's going to be thereabouts and a part of what New South Wales are doing for the next 5 years.
You reckon, though? If they lose this series...
Is he under pressure?
Absolutely he is, I reckon. I reckon if Cleary loses this series, because like, the problem at the moment is, during a 5-year period where the Blues, on paper, should have at least won 4 from 5, it's been the Penrith system. And, of course, it should be the Penrith system. They win 4 premierships in a row. But I do think there are some people out there that question, is the Penrith system as effective in Origin as it is in clubland? And I think that, for example, Isaiah Yeo, Nathan Cleary hasn't really worked as well in Origin because it's quite pass heavy instead of thinking run first. Like Paddy Carrigan goes so well in Origin because he's run first rather than pass.
Do you know it's a huge factor in why I don't think it's worked before in the past? And we haven't been able to see it with Nath and Yeo at this level. Dylan Edwards.
That's fair.
I don't think Teddy suited the system.
Yeah.
I don't think he really...
He did overcall quite a lot as well.
He didn't really, not buy in, but he had success with New South Wales before in a different way.
Yep.
And then it felt like when Nathan and Yeo in particular, and Jerome, when Jerome played there, they had a certain specific style that they liked to play, and they knew that they were going to chip away at Queensland. And then all of a sudden, Teddy would just
play differently,
play down
style.
a short side or get in the way. And you could see
it happening.
Body language and frustration. Like, that's just not where we were trying to get at the time.
Well, that's why I wouldn't have... Coming into this year, that's why I wouldn't pick Teddy, because I was like, he does not suit Cleary and Yeo.
Yep.
He suit. Don't get me wrong, Teddy, one of the greatest fullbacks of all time, but he suits the Roosters system that's set up for him as
and
the
he's
main
killing
guy.
it. Like, he's really flourishing in that role this year with the junior guys, right?
Yep.
So, I think the big three, like for those reasons, where now we're going to finally see all three of them together.
Yep.
Dylan Edwards got his first series last year, successful games 2 and 3. Nathan wasn't there. Yoe's back to his preferred position of lock, dictating through the middle.
I like him as a front row in Origin.
Yeah, I can see that because of what he's done in past.
And it forces him to run first.
Yeah.
If you put him in that front row position initially, he's a great runner of the ball. Run first, pass second. The reason why I don't think pass first, run second works in Origin, because it's too quick.
Yeah.
So the line gets to you.
And you know where he had joy with last year is like when he come off the bench, if you insert that and you play that style from the 25-minute mark, there's fatigue in the game then.
Absolutely.
So he's got to have the mindset. And the person I think who's done it the best for Queensland in the last couple of years is Paddy Carrigan.
Oh, mate.
When Paddy Carrigan, and that's probably to the detriment of Paddy at club level, because Madge looked at that and goes, he can play front row.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he does play a front row style, even with the 13 jersey in years past, but then have the ability at the 25, 30-minute mark. All right, now we're shifting a little bit more, and I can get in and play that role as well.
Yep. So, look, huge game tonight. Cannot wait. The Isaiah Yeo, the clear. I personally think this will make or break the Penrith system in Blues camp. What makes that so interesting is Bellyache is in the camp, whereas Ivan Cleary was an not assistant, but he was a mentor's the wrong word, but...
no, mentor's about right.
Okay, mentor. So, Freddie, he lent very heavily on Ivan, whereas Daly is leaving heavily on Bellamy, which, I mean, the Storm and the Penrith system couldn't be more different. Couldn't be more different. So it's going to be interesting to see, are they going to try and create a system that is similar to Penrith? I will say, and maybe it's a bit unfair on Penrith, the current Penrith system does look very similar to the old Storm system, a very conservative style of play. Grind them out of games, of games.
As in with the old Smith-Cronk Slater system?
Yes, where they were they're happy to win 6-4. They're happy, whereas Melbourne Storm these days, they've got to win 40-4. They don't want to win 6-4. All righty, we're going to head to a break. After the break, plenty more to talk about, so make sure to stay tuned. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Do not forget, grab some Grumpy Coffee at grumpycoffee.com.au. The best coffee. Turn that frown upside down with Grumpy Coffee. We've got Everyday Blend. We've got the Very Grumpy Blend. We've got pods. We've got whole bean. We've got ground. We've got it all. Okay. Who's a smoky from either side? You got your big stars. You can talk about KP. You can talk about Cleary. Who's a smoky that's going to stand up from either side in this series, or at least tonight?
Yeah. All right. So 2 players. I've got one from each team too.
Okay.
I think the name that we sort of mentioned right at the start, who missed last year, who Queensland really missed through the middle and their grunt, was Tino Fasuamaleaui.
100%.
I like Tino for both player of the match in this game if Queensland win, and I like him for a play for a Wally Lewis medal as well. If he's able to get through all 3 games, and that's not a guarantee for any of the players, right? But yeah, I think he's another guy who can leave the disappointment of what's happening at club level, get into camp with Queensland, back into a genuine opportunity of being in the game, which is a coin flip rather than being the underdogs and having to have a 10 out of 10 performance. And I think that could really suit him. I think he's going to play high minutes. And my smoky of all smokies for the New South Wales team, and I hope he's not a late change like we anticipated, Mitchy Barnett. Mitchy Barnett. I talked about at the start of the hour how over the last couple of years it's been forwards that get the Wally Lewis medal, that get the player of the matches. The game is won in the middle, and all eyes will be on Payne Haas and both Tino, but there is a chance that those two cancel each other out. And the way that Mitch Barnett has been playing for the Warriors this year, I think sometimes goes a little bit unnoticed because not everyone watches Warriors games. They're on that time slot where they're either an early Friday night game or an early Saturday game, and not everyone's across it. He is having a cracker season. The maturity of where he's at the moment, the leadership, and he is one of those players, he gets better as the game goes on. And that's what you look for in Origin. That's what you look for in player of the match performances. So they're my 2 smokies.
When was the last time Barnett had a bad game as well?
Yeah, good point.
I
can't remember one.
I can't remember. As soon as he hit the form he's currently in, he is always top 3 or 4 players on the field. And so, that kind of form, it's very rare in the forward pack. Like even Angus Crichton isn't always the top 3 or 4 players on the field. And Wally Lewis medal last year. So I love the shout of Barnett. And in all this talk about Spencer Lanu, Tino, Payne Haas, and Max King getting his debut, like no one's talking about Barnett, who is, is he just a tier below Payne Haas? Maybe. But he has been so consistent at that level. And also, like, even when he gets pushed out to an edge, he still puts on those big numbers. He still puts up those. So I love the Barnett shout.
If he starts, he's going to give you 60 to 65, probably 15 carries, around the 150, 35 tackles, really effective, hardly any misses. So that's what I'm looking for, Mitch. What about you, Kempy?
Well, just quickly on the Barnett. The other thing about Barnett is he has that dog in him. Matter of fact, he had too big of a dog in him for quite a while. They were like, you need to downsize. Too much dog. Downsize the dog. You got 2 pit bulls. We just need 1 at the moment.
They keep them in the kennel.
Just in case we need it. In regards to big performances, I think when you look at the Blues at the moment, a guy that just for some reason doesn't get talked about much heading into series, but has every series done something big, it's Liam Martin.
I thought you were going to go Liam Martin.
It's Liam Martin. Like, if there was one bloke that I want to be a Queenslander, get that Queensland jersey on him, it's Liam Martin. And look, I know New South Wales Blues would go, how dare you, sir. But in your heart of hearts, you know Liam Martin plays like a Queenslander. You know it. You know it deep down. He is an absolute dog, and he doesn't have the biggest stats, and he doesn't set the world alight with the match-winning try or whatever. But when the game needs a big hit or just a guy to rub his face and the top of his head into someone else's head, it's Liam Martin. When the game needs to get grubby and dirty and grimy, he gets there and says, I love this, baby. This is my time. So Liam Martin, for me, is a guy that I'm going to be watching very closely, especially, being a bit quiet at Clubland. And so I can't wait to see how he goes.
Queensland?
In regards to the Queensland side, look, there's a few of them. I just look at the hammer. I want him to bounce back. I think Critter got the best of him in the game 3. But really, the person that I'm looking at, it's Xavier Coates. Like, we talk about the Lomax, the To'o, how good they're going to be in the air and how big and athletic they are. Xavier Coates is just as big and athletic. He's down at the Melbourne Storm. He's been playing outstanding footy. And I just think that he's not being spoken about. There's been so much talk about, Holmes and Toya and Hammer. No one's really spoken about Coates, and yet he's probably the most informed out of any of the outside backs for Queensland.
His yardage carries have improved so much in the last 18 months.
Go back and watch the first half of the grand final last year. He wasn't that great. He was quiet. He came out in the second half, and he has not taken a step back since that second half, where he knows he cannot afford to sit on his wing and just do nothing. And I think Xavier Coates is in for a big one.
And Val's another guy who I think Val's a better winger than he is a centre.
I agree.
But because he's such a good, he can play either, and because he's such a good player, he plays centres at Clubland.
Yep.
But I think, the wing And I heard you talking about the conspiracy of who's playing on what. I agree. I'd keep Coates and Lomax on each other.
Yep.
And Val Holmes and marking up on each other.
Alrighty, see you after the break. Well, welcome back to the Captain's Run. Grab your Grumpy Coffee at grumpycoffee.com.au. We've got multiple blends. We've got pods. We've got ground. We've got whole bean. We've got it all at grumpycoffee.com.au. Turn that frown upside down with Grumpy Coffee. Alrighty, Buzz Rothfield reporting the NRL wants to take interstate series abroad for only the second time in history. An exhibition match was held in Los Angeles in '87 when only 12,000 people turned up to watch New South Wales beat Queensland 30-18 at Veterans Memorial Stadium in Long Beach. The logical venue would be Eden Park, which has hosted Rugby League's International and the Auckland Nines from 2014 to 2017. The time difference is an issue. There's talk about playing it at 8 p.m. in New Zealand, so it can be played at 6 p.m. here, probably on a Sunday. There's the only stopper on it, the time difference. That's the only stopper on it, the time difference. You can't have it at 10:30 p.m. in New Zealand to have it in prime time there. It just wouldn't work. The Australians, Andrew Webster, good old Webby, has argued that the NRL should investigate the possibility of playing Origin at a 90,000-seat Wembley Stadium in London. Holy. Wow, I wonder. I guess you'd have to do a bit of math on how many Australians are in London right now. You know, is it 100,000, 200,000, 300,000? I was against taking it outside Australia initially. I just thought, look, this is our one thing where, you know, it's so tribal. Keep it in Australia. It's Australian League. And then I thought about it and I said, yeah, but you know what? We call ourselves the NRL. Yes, we are an Australian League, but we do have a Kiwi side in it. And as much as you want to pretend that there isn't this a mixture of Kiwi, Polynesian, Australia, it's not as simple as it used to be, 50 years ago. It is much more complex, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's made the game better. It's opened the game up to more people. And so the more I've thought about it, the more I'm like, you know what? I do think that we should consider taking an Origin to New Zealand. Because I tell you what, like New Zealand at the moment, with the Warriors going as well as they are, it is so good. And if we want to have that final blow to really, try to dominate New Zealand. Now, granted, I don't think we'll ever be bigger than the All Blacks in New Zealand. Like, they are seriously ingrained in the culture. But I do think club rugby over there would face quite a bit of pressure if the Warriors win a premiership or they keep going well, and also an Origin is played there every now and then. What do you reckon, Maestro?
I'm a big fan of this, Kempy. The logistics seem to be the only thing preventing it from happening. I think you'd have no problem getting people over there to go and watch that game because tickets would probably be a little bit more available, particularly than they are in Queensland, right? 50,000 at Suncorp, they're rarer than hen's teeth in the lead up to a game. So I think it'd be a good opportunity to add something that people could travel for.
And it's not like it's not super expensive to go to. Don't get me wrong, you still have to save. Yeah, I'm not pretending like everyone has $1 million in the bank or whatever. But if you want to, if it says we're announced we're in New Zealand next year, you can say, okay, I'm going to put away $50 a week for the next 10 months, and that's going to get me my tickets and everything to get over there.
Absolutely, and I think the breadth of Polynesian players in this series now is something that would appeal to the audience over there. I think you'd have no problem selling out somewhere like Eden Park. That would be the only other thing I'd be questioning if we'd done this, say, 10 years ago. I don't think you'd have a problem doing that now. I think New Zealand have bought into the National Rugby League and the Warriors so brilliantly since COVID, really. And, yeah, I think it'd be great. Getting one over to England, I think that'd be really interesting as well because we've got this Kangaroos tour going over. Need something to spark the game a little bit over there. I don't know how you'd fit that in going in mid-season. I think that'd be a big ask for some of the players, but, it's something that can be investigated. And they'll get all the data out of people going over there for the Kangaroos tour, how many tickets they're selling, where those people are located that they're selling them to. I think that's something to look for, maybe not in the next 5 years, but down the track. I think that could be a possibility.
Yeah, for sure. I think as well, I've lived in New Zealand for a year, and less than a year, but about a year. And even I was actually in a cab with a Kiwi just the other day. And like most Kiwis, when you ask them, Queensland or New South Wales, they'll give you a straight answer. Like they won't go, I don't care, I'm from New Zealand. They will say Queensland, 100%, or they go Blues all day. And so, again, being Australian, it's very easy, and being a very proud Australian, to say this is ours. Don't touch it. This is. But you got to remember, if we want to be bigger as a game, there are Kiwis out there that have barely even been to New South Wales or Queensland that still pick an Origin side. Matter of fact, we had a really good chat, me and the cabbie, and I gave him Maroon's Bloke because he was a Queensland fan. I gave him a Maroon's Bloke jumper that's coming out in a few weeks. He was stoked.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that bloke doesn't, like, the way he reacted as a cabbie, he would have been 60 years old or something. He was a Kiwi. You could, like, Kiwi hard. He reacted just as passionately as a person that was born and bred and grown up in Queensland. So I just think that having been over in New Zealand, like, there is no hesitation when you ask a Kiwi or a Samoan or a Tongan or whatever, New South Wales or Queensland, they immediately answer. And so that's where if you had to ask me this maybe a few years ago, I would have said, no, keep it Australian. It's a tradition, blah, blah, blah. But then I go, no, I think the game's outgrown that. Now, don't get me wrong. We must make sure we keep connection to the tradition. We cannot water it down. And I think currently as it stands, the eligibility is pretty good. It's just the Kiwi-England thing that we have to sort out. But I do think that taking a game to New Zealand especially, I have absolutely come around to that. Eden Park, could you imagine that? And look, I guarantee you, guess who'd be there? The All Blacks would absolutely be there watching. 100%. Guys like Aaron Smith and that, I guarantee you they'd be going on Origin. It would be an absolute event. Okay, here's a text here. Origin going overseas, all being pushed by journalists. Junket paid by others. Gary, I've got a question for you, brother. Who you reckon's paying the journos to say that? Do you really reckon that they're getting paid to say take it overseas, mate? Come on, bro. That cabbie put that jersey straight on eBay, mate. I hope he didn't because he's not going to get anything for it. It's just a jumper. No, he was a legend. It was a great. I think, as I said, I really like the idea of over New Zealand and having lived there for 10 months. Like, they love it. They love it. And there's the Morning Crew, which is a huge podcast now, the Morning Shift, the Shifters. Mate, they're Kiwi hard. Like, couldn't be more Kiwi. Obviously, they got Samoan heritage or whatever, but they're brought up in the Kiwi in New Zealand. And mate, their podcast, which is a pop culture podcast, when Origin comes around, they have their states. They talk about Origin. So it's just a good example of, like, we've outgrown just Australia, I think. Now, the London one would be cool, but I don't see as much of a sell as I do see for New Zealand because I just think that we've grown so much into New Zealand at the moment.
It'd be interesting if they took that, revived that exhibition idea. Like, I know we like Origin, we like our 3-game series, but I think, like we talked about it with the women's, why couldn't they play an exhibition over there before they come back and play the 3-game series in Vegas? I think it's, as much as we talk about international rugby league and how growing that's really important and it's going from strength to strength, Origin is still the marquee product that this game has to that the NRL has to put forward and grow the sport, I think. And it could be utilised that way. We'll see how it goes.
I just think the only thing that the clubs would have an issue with, they're like, you're going to ask my players to leave club for an exhibition? No way. Like, there's no way I'm letting my player go for a week. I got some text here. Hi, guys. I lived in the South Island of New Zealand for 10 years, and Origin is huge here. I've been saying for decades it would sell out in minutes. Also, because of the Graham Lowe connection, Kiwis have always supported Queensland. Peter. Yeah, as I said, like, I don't think until you've been in New Zealand, I don't think you're actually going to realise, like, I know you in your head you're sitting there going, why would they have a connection to it? They're not from Australia. But I promise you, Kiwis love Origin. Absolutely love it. And I agree. I reckon if we announced it was going to be in New Zealand, I reckon it would be a record sellout. That's how much. Like, look at the Warriors. They're the first club in history to sell out a full season at home. Imagine what Origin would do. I guarantee it would sell out. Here's a text here. No way. Keep it here. They don't deserve to have it. They are not Queenslander or Welshman. Yeah, but by that argument, then we shouldn't have it in Perth. We shouldn't have it in
Victoria, South
all
Australia.
that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It's like, and also, like, they don't deserve to have it. It's like, well, hang on a sec. The Warriors offer quite a lot to rugby league. The New Zealand Kiwi side offer quite a lot to rugby league. I mean, we've got Kiwis that were people that were born in New Zealand currently in the Queensland squad. So as I said, it's not as cut and dry as maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Yep.
Hey, boys, I think Magic Round would be better in New Zealand. That way, they get to see all the teams and they could run some coaching clinics to get the kids hooked on rugby league. Cheers. Walusha Rabbit. Look, Magic Round is good, but I think people don't really understand how big Origin is. Like, the money and the viewership that Origin gets, it's absolutely huge, absolutely huge. In saying that, like the thing with Magic Round, look, if you could convince me that there's a place in New Zealand that's as good as Caxton Street and Suncorp, then I would consider it. But Caxton Street is so perfect for Magic Round. I just can't see myself going away from there. What do you reckon, Maestro?
No, I tend to agree with you, Kempy. I think this one-off event, you're not struggling to sell as much. You're not asking people to commit as much money to go over there. You're not asking New Zealanders to fork out as much to go and see this.
Yep. Absolutely. All righty. We are going to head to a break. After break, plenty more to talk about, including previewing the round. Well, welcome back to the Captain's Run. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Chemist Warehouse half-price vitamin sales on now. Don't forget, guys, text in 0457 736 736. Text in your origin predictions, because if you text in, you get it correct, you have a chance to win a $100 Bloke gift voucher or a $100 Grumpy gift voucher of your choice. All you got to do is text in your prediction for the score. If you get it correct, then we will pick randomly out of all the correct scores texted in. We'll pick the one at random. Okay, we've got some previews to get to. Dragons v Knights, Friday, 8 p.m, Jubilee Stadium. Christian Tuipulotu returns from a hamstring injury to take over from Corey Allen on the wing. Dylan Egan's season is over after suffering a knee injury. Leilua is promoted to the starting side, with Couchman joining the bench. Interesting, Kobe Couchman coming back through the bench rather than starting in the middle. Flanagan and King Tongia resume their partnership in the halves. Knights team news, Ponga has been named to back up from Origin, with Fletcher Sharp returning to 5'8", Tyson Gamble shifting back to halfback. Cogger drops to reserves. Thompson returns from illness, shifting Brody Jones to the bench. Adam Elliott is missing with a bicep injury. Croker replaces him at lock. Jack Hetherington joins the bench. Look, I'm going to say quickly, because I know it's probably frustrating for Knights fans, but I just think it's so bizarre that you shifted your 6-1. He played the best game of the season and of his career. You shifted your 7-6. He played the best game that he's played so far this year. And then you go the next week, you shift your 1 back to 6 and your 6 back to 7. And people go, oh, well, they just did that for one game. But it's like, well, surely you just keep Gamble and Fletcher Sharp at 7 and 6, and you bring in a young rookie to go at number 1 if you have faith in the. Anyway, it's just so strange to me, because now Fletcher Sharp, there's a chance he goes back to 6, has nowhere near the game he has at fullback, and Gamble goes back to 7, has nowhere near the game. The thing that I do hope that, look, they go back to these other positions and they go, you know what? Let's start playing some good footy. They get some wins, and then we never talk about it again. In regards to this game, Dragons v Knights. Look, Dragons look desperate for not desperate for a win, but because they had that really, really good win over the Broncos. But it is a game where they can't really afford to go win-loss anymore. They don't really have. I mean, on the ladder, the good thing about the ladder for a lot of teams is that most teams are within a win or two from the top 8. It has been such a bizarre year that separating first to last is about 5 wins. About 5 wins. Now, separating fourth to all the way down to 12th, you're looking at fourth all the way down to 12th. You're looking at three wins. And so it is a really, really tight table. For example, you look at the Penrith Panthers, they're currently last with 9 points. But in reality, they're actually only 3 points outside the 8. And so that's 2 wins. They have to win essentially anywhere from about 8 to 9 of their last 13 games. And that's what makes this year so weird, because if you're a Dragons fan, you're sitting there going, geez, we've had such a bad year. We had that a little bit of a good run there for a period. We've really struggled. But in reality, the Dragons are currently sitting 10th, and they are actually on the same points as the Broncos. And so, you know what I mean? That are currently sitting 8th. And so that's where you can sit there and go, okay, listen, if we could just, we got the win over the Broncos. We just scrape through and get this win over the Knights. If you can just get together 3 wins on the trot, mate, it can take you from 10th all the way into 5th. And so, that's what's really important for this win for the Dragons. For the Knights, obviously, they're in a similar boat. They're actually in a really similar boat. They're on 10 points. They're 1 win behind the Dragons, so they're desperate to start banking them up as well. I think the Knights, for me, at the moment, I'll be very surprised if they do make the 8. But if they are to make the 8, I think this is the week they need to kickstart everything. I really do think they need to kickstart. We've got a text here, Kempy. As a Knights tragic, you are 100% correct. Let's try and keep a stable team together. Please, please, please. Cheers, Shane. Yeah, I know. I tried to speak about it as little as possible because we've spoken about it so much, the half situation. But I just couldn't believe for the life of me, after all of the lack of clarity around halves, that all happened. And some people try to defend it and go, well, he made the right decision by moving Fletcher Sharp to fullback. But it's like, but then for one game, what? If you don't think that you can beat the Penrith Panthers with Gamble at 6 and a rookie at the fullback, like it's anyway, okay.
You foresaw this last week. You were talking about it. You said if Sharp comes out and kills it,
what happens then?
You're stuck in this situation. Now, it might end up that Ponga doesn't back up, right? So he might be shifted back there and they look great for another week. But, yeah, they have just got themselves in such a pickle. Is there any argument, Kempy, that moving Sharp back there gave them a look at him at fullback and went, hey, if Kalen Ponga ends up heading off, which we expect could be in the future, then we don't need to worry about that. We just need to sort out our halves, and we know we've got someone who could be our long-term fullback at the club. There's
a chance. I spoke about that last week as well. Like, are they looking at life without KP? Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
That's what that change says to me.
It just goes, okay, because for the last couple of weeks, there have been multiple reports of Knights officials worried about Kalen Ponga not being happy at the club in its current form. And it would make a lot more sense the Dylan Brown situation then, because Dylan Brown comes in and plays 6, Fletcher Sharp plays fullback, and then Gamble or Cogger plays 7. But again, it's still outside, the pressure outside looking in, though, becomes that, okay, if KP comes back and they struggle again, and granted, look, it was against an understrength Penrith side, I get all that. But if KP comes back and they struggle, there are a lot of fans that are going to be like, why are we playing people, Gamble out of position, Fletcher out of position? It's not really working. Anyway. Outside of that, though, it is really, really important. This game could be season-defining for both games. Whoever wins this game, you could make the argument, are going to be much higher chance of making the 8. Got a text here. There's no way Ponga backs up, Sharp to fullback and Cog at half. Potentially. But yeah, this game, it's season-defining in my opinion. I think that whoever loses this game is probably going to lose touch with the 8. And I think that both teams kind of need to get on a bit of a run at the moment to get back into the 8. Okay, on to Titans v Storm. Another reshuffle in the back line with Jaden de Groot moving to fullback, Brimson to 5'8", and Kieran Foran to the bench. Fermor, Fodawaker, Tino are named to back up from Origin. Storm team news, Grant, Munster, Leoro are all named to back up from Origin. And
Bronson Garlic, that is meant to read. Kippy, sorry.
That's all right. Garlic joins the bench alongside Wishart, Solomona, and Kamakamitha. Storm news, Pahulu signing. I love that signing. Mate, he is the perfect forward for their bench. He's explosive, he's nuggety, he's going to come out and, I assume, play a similar role to what Cheese used to do. That is a huge signing for them. And it actually might be the final signing that they need for a premiership push, because if you look at the bench currently, and if the bench was currently Wishart, Nelson, Kamakamitha, Pahulu, that is a well-balanced bench, a really well-balanced bench. Now, you could make the argument, is it too front-row centric with, do they have an edge-back row to fill in? Oh, look, I think Pahulu could do a job if he had to. I think Leoro could also do a job if he had to go out on an edge. And so if you go Wishart, Pahulu, Nelson, and Kamakamitha, that is a strong bench. Strong bench. Now, in regards to the Titans, what is there to say that hasn't been said already about the Titans? Like, it's been a disaster season. The crazy thing is they, the insane thing about the Titans is they are still only just one win outside the 8. Like right now you could argue, okay, they've played 10 games instead of the 11 games, which means that they've had their bye. But I just think that right now, the fact that they are only one win outside the 8, that's crazy to me. To think about how negative the talk has been around the Titans and how much they've struggled as a side. The fact that they're one win, I think that's amazing for them, that they actually are still in touch.
Absolutely. What have you made of the noise this week around Toby Sexton potentially moving there?
Back there?
Yeah.
Has there been noise about that?
Well, Kieran Foran came out today and said, oh, yeah, he's a great player. If he hits the open market, it'd be great to take over from him.
Surely not. Surely not. There's no way.
Yeah. But they haven't got a solve there at the moment, I think, is the question I'm asking you, right? Because they've tried Jaden Campbell there, and it's been all right. AJ's been moving around. I mean, Jalen de Groot's going to football. Like, Des has just not got a handle on what his best 13 is.
Well,
does he?
but then if you are, let's say they are going in the market for a conservative 7, are you not basically saying that Des is not going to be the coach then? Because Des has gone all in on this new look. Oh, I can put 2 fullbacks in my halves and I don't need a conservative 7. It's like what we spoke about earlier in the show. You know, a lot of people just think, just do what the Melbourne Storm have done. They're the exception, not the rule. And, if they were to go out and recruit a conservative 7, you're basically saying Desi's made the wrong call at the start of this season. I was always a big believer of Kieran Foran continuing to be in the 7. Put Brimo at the back. I think De Groot at the moment, he's probably not ready for first grade. He's a battler. He tries really hard and he's still really young, so he's going to improve. But I think, me personally, I'd be putting Foran at 7. I'd be putting Campbell at 6. I'd be putting Brimo at the back there and working there. Look, I think the Storm got them this week. I really think
and they need a win, don't they?
The Storm?
Yeah, had a couple of tricky little ups and downs.
The funny thing about the Storm is, like, in a 20-minute game, their attack, in my opinion, is as good as any Storm team that's ever existed. The problem is they don't have the same grit as the old Storm. They're not willing to grind games like the old Storm used to. And I think that's what stopped them from winning a premiership so far. Like, they just don't have that extra bit of grit where that last 20 minutes where they need to hang in there and just stick to the plan. Whereas they usually want to go into games, they want to win 40-4.
Yeah.
Instead of going, we'll win 6-4, 10-4, 12-4. And so I think that's something that they've got to really clean up with the Melbourne Storm. If they are to win a premiership this year, they don't need better attack. They don't need better players. They just need to be a bit more conservative at times. Alrighty, we're gonna head to a break. After the break, we're gonna continue the preview. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. Head to grumpycoffee.com.au. Grab your coffee today. Plenty of blends, whole bean, pods, ground. We got it all. And also tonight, do not forget, tune in to Bloke YouTube. Immediately when the whistle blows, we will be reviewing Origin 1 straight away. You do not want to miss it. Big show planned. Okay, Cowboys v Tigers, Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Queensland Country Bank Stadium. Dearden, Nanai, Cotter, Robson, all named to back up from Origin. Jackson Paulo will play his first game as a Cowboy with Murray Talangi out with injury. Sam McIntyre moves to prop. Cohen Hess dropping to the bench. Tigers team news, Lockie Galvin has been replaced at 6 by Heath Mason in the only change to the side that lost to South 2 weeks ago. Tigers confirmed on Tuesday Galvin has been excused from training commitments this week and won't be selected in any grade this weekend. Okay, Cowboys v Tigers. Talk about a game where I don't know what's going to happen. Cowboys could come out and absolutely pound them into the core of the earth, or it could be a gritty win by the Tigers. I'm not sure. I don't necessarily see the Tigers winning 13+. I mean, in saying that, they could galvanise, no pun intended. No pun intended. But this one is a really strange one because the Cowboys for me is like, a month ago they were on this run. So you sit, okay, premiership heavyweights, here we go again, the Cowboys. And then their form just nosedives out of nowhere and you count them out. And as soon as you start counting them out and you say Peyton's under pressure, they go on a big run again and you go, oh, I was an idiot. Why did I say Peyton was under pressure? Cowboys for me are just so hard to pinpoint. I don't know what to say. Maestro, speak to me.
Well, I watched them 2 weeks ago against Manly, and they were downright dreadful in the second half. Manly upped their game, but they should have had that game. They should have had that game won by the first half. Missed opportunities, and then were punished for it. They're still sitting inside the top 8, Kempy.
Yeah.
Like after all of this, so
it's a bizarre season. I got to tell you, we spoke a little bit about before, but it's one of the strangest years I've ever. Like, can you genuinely say, like, for example, Bulldogs are out and out first right now.
Yep.
There are a lot of people that say the Bulldogs don't have the roster to win the comp. And yet, okay, so who else wins the comp? Melbourne Storm have been hit or miss. There is no, and then you go, okay, Warriors and Raiders, they should be there. They're in the top 4. But a lot of people say, no, look at their draw. It's been too easy. Like right now, I don't think that you've got a clear, definitive, these are the 2 teams that will be in the grand final.
Which means it's going to be even the whole way, right?
When
you don't have a great team, it gives you terrific drama in terms of you do not know which team is turning up to win every week, which makes a game like this where you usually go, Cowboys, Tigers, Saturday, 5:30. Suddenly you're like, okay, this is really interesting.
You don't know what's going to happen.
These are 2 teams that are right on the borderline of the 8. Who have shown in patches that can be really exciting footy teams at different times, and then at others just shown a complete lack of willingness to defend and get in the contest. So Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think I have the Cowboys slightly, particularly if they get all their origin players back. But, I mean, the Tigers are more than capable. They've showed that plenty of times this season of going up there and causing an upset.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like, it's so hard to say which one's going to win. Like last year, we got to about this time, maybe a little bit later, and it was, okay, clearly it's Storm Penrith. And then the year before that, we got to this time, it was Broncos Penrith.
Yep.
Like everyone could see that. Whereas this is like, I don't know. I really have no idea. Like, you look at the Raiders, like, why can't the Raiders win the comp?
The Raiders have still got to buy Kempy. Like,
It's
they're going
insane.
to be level on points with the Bulldogs at
like,
some stage.
At some stage, they'll be, we've got a text here as well. Kempy, Tigers will win by 20 on Saturday. Massive ambush incoming, and Cowboys are only in the 8 because they've had 2 buys. I tell you what, I hate this buy system. It does my head in so much. Because you really have to look at the ladder and be like, oh, well, they haven't had their buy yet. They'd actually be in the 8. I'm just having a look at now Cowboys. So they'd had their 2 buys. That means they're sitting on 13 points. So, yeah, that's fair. They probably would be outside the 8. What a bizarre year. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It is such a strange year. Okay, in regards to this game, look, I'm going to go Cowboys.
Yeah.
Cowboys just. Cowboys just. Okay, on to the next game. Manly v. the Broncos. Tom Trbojevic, Jake Trbojevic, and Toki Auha are all out in injury. Lehigh Hopewadi shifts to fullback. Tommy Talau comes onto the wing. Aloia and Ben Trbojevic both return after missing last weekend. I just got a text here. Raiders with the easy draw. You're kidding. I didn't say Raiders. I'm saying some people say that. Like Warriors have had an easy draw. But I think the Raiders are the real deal. Okay, now Broncos team news. Carrigan and Haas are both named to back up from Origin. Jesse Arthur shifts to fullback with Selwyn Cobbo named on the wing. Ben Takura replaces Fletcher Baker on the bench. I'd look at this with the outs Manly have, and I'd go, mate, surely the Broncos towel them up. But I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Well, I talked about the Cowboys being dreadful in the second half. How about Manly against the Eels? My goodness. Like, what a turn up from one week to the next in the quality of football they produce. And the Broncos have been like that all season. So, does Jekyll or Hyde turn up? That's the question you're trying to answer with your tips at the moment.
Well, for example, the Broncos, they got beaten by the Dragons. The Dragons didn't even play that well.
Yeah.
And they lost a man in the bin for 10 minutes. So, like, I'd get if the Broncos lost to the Dragons and they just played really well. You just go, okay, that happens sometimes. The Dragons played very average. They just wanted it more.
Yeah.
And so that's the concerning thing is, like, I'm going to pick the Broncos, obviously, but I'm not convinced of it. Like, earlier in the year, I was always convinced that the Broncos could turn up and just go crazy. They have that in them. They've got the roster. Right now, I'm not even convinced they can do that. I'm not even convinced they're inconsistent. They're actually being consistently bad lately.
What do you make of Jesse Arthur's going to the back? The
I
Cobbo
like
experiment's over.
Yeah, I like it. Initially, when Cobbo had that really good game, I was a big fan. But I actually, before he got moved to fullback, I actually mentioned Jesse Arthur's just because of his fitness.
Yep.
And I know that he's not the best ball player or whatever, but I just think he's going to get across the park defensively. He's going to be able to be a bit more mobile at the back there. So we lose quite a bit in the ball playing. Now, there were a bit of whispers that Reece Walsh was going to come back, but I don't think you want to rush that. I will say, like, when Cobbo first played, you'd go, okay, maybe there is a world where Reece Walsh should be under a bit of pressure. I think since then it's proven like they desperately miss him. The problem is that they definitely desperately miss the attack that he brings, but they don't need more errors. They need to pull things back. So if we can get a really calm and matured Reece Walsh back and a fit, ready to go, that'll be good. In regards to Manly, look, it's just the Tom Trbojevic thing is just, it just won't go away for you guys.
Well, you got that. You got the DCE stuff. Like, I've lost all hope this season, to be honest, Kempy.
Okay.
Like, I know the table's close, but Manly are tracking in the wrong direction, and that's a real worry. I don't know if Jamal coming in is going to fix all those problems next season, but at the moment they just look so lax through the middle last weekend. It was really worrying.
Yeah, and my concern at the Manly is, there's some stuff going on, but like under Anthony Seibold, have you progressed as a squad?
And I don't think we have, Kempy. I've been a real supporter of Siebes. I think he's brings some really interesting ideas to rugby league, but at the moment, it's, it was starting that it felt like Manly were playing entertaining footy. Everyone was buying into what was happening. That performance on Friday against the Eels as well, which for Manly, that's the one. I know there's Origin and all that stuff. It's a weird time to play that game, but that's the one you do not want to lose in those circumstances. That hurt.
Yeah, and lose substantially, 30 to 10.
Exactly.
And so I just with Seibold, the worry I have, and I'm with you, mate. I when Seibold went to Seagulls, and everyone was like, what the hell after everything that happened to Brisbane? I was actually saying, listen, give this bloke a chance. You know, you don't always nail your first appointment. I mean, even Wayne Bennett didn't nail his first appointment. My worry with Seabold is it seems to be a trend with teams that he has, that they're inconsistent. Like the Broncos, they'd start the year really well. They'd, you'd have Joey in the paper going, this is the best young forward pack I've ever seen. I tell you, I give Joey give him a lot of credit, but he doesn't get enough credit. When he said that's the best young forward pack he's ever seen, if you actually
wrong.
Exactly, when you actually go and look at that team and where they've all ended up in the next couple of years they've had, like, he wasn't far off.
No.
They turned into a pretty bloody good forward pack. But the problem I have with Seabold is that, it's not with Seabold, but just talking about his coaching, he seems to have a similar problem at both squads. Like they're inconsistent. Every now and then they'll play this really entertaining footy, but the difference between their best and their worst game is just like night and day.
Yep.
Seem to be quite leaky through the middle, not very gritty sides. And so I think that my concern with Manly, he signed till 2027, like hopefully at some stage you see some progress, because at the moment there just hasn't been that much.
Yep. I agree with every point you've made there, Kempy, as a Seagulls fan.
Okay, we're going to head to a break. After break, plenty more rugby league to preview. Panthers v Eels this week. Edwards, To'o, Cleary, Yo, Martin, all named back up, and the Panthers sitting on the bottom of the ladder. Scott Sorensen returns to suspension, meaning Isaac Tungo back in the centres. Henry is out through suspension. Laurie, Alamotti, Schneider all dropped to reserve grades. Wow, Alamotti to reserve grades. Okay. Eels team news. Moses and Zach Climax are named to back up from origin duty. Hawkins dropped to reserve grade. Joey Hawkins, they call him after last week. Sean Russell shifts to the centres to replace Will Pensini, who was under concussion protocol. And Joash Papali retains his place on the bench after scoring on debut. I'll tell you what, Panthers, do you risk backing Cleary up at least if the season it's not over, like they can make the 8, but my worry is that in the last few years you could back Cleary up because you're pushing for a premiership. And I think internally Panthers would still be looking at it like, we are pushing for a premiership. But if they lose just 1 or 2 more games, it's essentially over for them. And the worry I have with Cleary is that it's around origin time, I think, when he backed up when he did his hammy. And people look at hammies and they go, oh, well, it's a hammy. You're good after 4 to 6 weeks. The problem with hamstrings is once you do it once and you do it again and again, you increase the likelihood it's going to happen again. And so I just wonder with Cleary, do you go, listen, I don't want to risk him doing any soft tissue injuries. This guy is here to win premierships for us. Maybe don't consider backing him up during Origin because the season is getting away from them. Now, they might do it this week, but I reckon if Panthers lose another game or 2, I think that they will stop backing up their Origin players and they'll start looking long-term for the Panthers. What do you reckon, Maestro?
This is a massive headache. That's what I reckon. Like, all things being well this season, I don't think there's any chance Cleary plays this game. But given the situation, given you are hanging on to your season, given the Eels are starting to show that they're hitting a little bit of form for the first time under Jason Riles, I think he has to play.
But do you really think they can win the comp this year?
Penrith? They make the top 8.
But who cares?
I don't think they can. No, I don't think they can.
Does anyone really care if they make the 8 this year? Like they've won 4 comps in a row. Who cares? They are not in the making 8 business. The worry I have is like, what if some of these key players sustain soft tissue injuries because they're backing up from Origin, and then they're hurting themselves. Yeah, like they're hurting themselves long term for it. I think this round they will, but if they lose to the Eels this week, if I'm Penrith. And look, maybe this is why they're different to me. They're like, no, we're trying to win a comp no matter what. But if I'm Penrith and I can't make the 8, there's no way I'm making players back up in the Origin period.
No, then you're looking at 2026 and getting things right there. Gee, it's a big issue for them. I think the Eels are a chance of snatching this one.
Mate, the Eels look great. And I spoke about it last week where just focus on how much they've improved these young players compared to round 1. The win was great. Getting the W, that was great for Riles. But what was more great was look how far they have come as a team. Like, guys have improved from, they would barely make the New South Wales Cup side to first graders in 10, 12 rounds. That's the win for the Eels. They're ahead of schedule for their rebuild. Okay, on to Roosters versus Raiders. Wow, talk about a clash. Raiders going over and upsetting the Warriors over at home. What a win by them. And yeah, it did boil over, and you could argue they did some silly things, went too far. But at the same time, that's what they needed at the time.
Yep.
They needed someone to rev things up. Tarpanair did that. I will say, with Starling being suspended, I'm keen as anything to see Owen Paddy in the 9 role, more time. Hudson Young named to back up. Sasungi to the bench. Levi has been added to the interchange as backup hooker. Roosters, Collins, Lenu, Watson, Toya, Crichton, all are named to backup Origin. Feketi, Butcher return to the bench. Young is 18th man. This is going to be an absolute belter of a match. Who have you got here?
I've got the Raiders, I think, Kempy.
Wow.
Just with all the Roosters backing up from Origin, I think that's going to be tough. You talk about the brand of footy that the Raiders play. Still, what a blessing in disguise it is that Horsburgh hasn't been picked. He's going to come into this game fresh and out to prove a point as well. I think coming off that game in midweek, I know they've got the longer turnaround than some of the other teams, but this is going to be a real challenge for them against a Raiders side who are just full of confidence at the moment.
Full of confidence. I think the Roosters, I think they'll make the 8. They've convinced me that they will be playing finals footy this year. I think they will be. Okay, just quickly now, the last game. Oh, no, I don't have it in front of me. Was that it?
Top of that page. Top of that page.
No, it's not.
We've gone early. The Rabbitohs and the Warriors.
Okay, Rabbitohs, Warriors. I'll just talk about it off the top. Rabbitohs, Warriors. The Rabbitohs. I tell you what, the fact that the Rabbitohs are sitting 6th right now, I cannot believe, with all the injuries they've had, with everything that they've been through this year, they're 6th.
Yeah.
It is one of the great coaching masterclasses from Wayne Bennett. I cannot believe it. You've got to remember, this team has been without, all of their key players at some point during this year. It is an amazing feat. Look, I'm going to go Warriors to bounce back, but what an incredible season from the Rabbitohs.
Absolutely. JFH back in, which is a massive in for them as well.
All righty, we're going to head to a break. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. That is another Captain's Run done and dusted. Don't forget, tonight on Bloke YouTube, we'll be going live as soon as the game finishes to review Origin 1. Do not miss it. Do not miss it. Also, make sure June 10th, 6 p.m, Bloke Maroon, Bloke Blue, hats and jumpers going live. Limited edition, never been done before this design. And also grab yourself some grumpy coffee. But as usual, a massive thank you to everyone for listening. We really do appreciate it. Another really enjoyable episode. Thank you to Scope for joining us. Thanks, Maestro. We've got the run home with Fletch and Sugar after me. Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next week.